throughout your coaching journey, you've been at some cool spots. Which spot or stop that you've been at you feel like has been the most pivotal for where you are now?
God, they've all for different reasons have been really, really influential. The two the most are my time in Denver with Peyton Manning for 4 of those 6 years I was there, and then the journey in Cincinnati from where we started to where we ended up. Those 2 spots were probably the most, because they're the longest stays I had. They were the most influential. Obviously, being around Peyton Manning for any amount of time is a blessing in and of itself. But yeah, that was like a PhD in quarterback play.
We grow them here at the bus. The fly that keeps flying around.
We do fly farming.
Look, you don't have any cicadas in here yet.
Yeah, I know, bro. They're everywhere out here. Dude, watching Peyton in that last year where you necessarily couldn't throw it beyond 5-10 yards. What was it like sitting back?
Will Compton's words.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'd say it. But watching him operate from being more limited than he ever has.
Yeah, it was really. That was a wild year because we had just transitioned from. Gary Kubiak was the head coach, and then he brought that whole system, which was vastly different from the one that he had run for the better part of 18 years at that point. And so there was a big back and forth there. He had gotten injured that year and missed a bunch of time, and then came back for the playoffs at the very end. Brock Osweiler, I think, had thrown a couple interceptions, and they replaced him at halftime right at the very end of the season in like a must-win game against the Chargers. And then he ended up playing the playoffs. So it was a roller coaster season. It was a lot of ups and downs. But what the cool part was, you saw what made him so great was his ability to process and know what to do and when to do it in the moment. Like, it was unbelievable. And even with a diminishing physical skill set, that he wasn't what he was when he was in his 20s. I mean, it was unbelievable what he pulled off with his brain. And just being able to know what to do with the football.
Yeah. What's he like watching at practice? Like, I've had teammates who have played with him, and they're like, if a tight end drops a ball, he'll remove the tight end. Even if you're back there like, oh no, get back out there. The sheriff's like, no, give me somebody else who's going to catch the ball and be dependable in these moments. Like, what was he like
That's
watching?
Accurate. That's what it was. There was a standard. And it's actually funny. We were having a conversation today about guys that are like, that get to that point in their careers, that have the pelts on the wall and the experience, but on top of that, the pressure. The expectation is that they're going to win every game. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, those guys get to a certain point in their career where they don't allow anything other than what the highest standard is possible. And if you don't meet it, you're not going to be playing with them.
Yeah. And
that's how he operated. And I appreciated that because he's got all the pressure. I got to do my part. And if I'm going to do all this, then I'm going to make sure that everybody around me is at the same level that I am. And I thought that was a really cool thing to witness in person. But that's how it would be if you missed an assignment. He was particularly ruthless on like running backs and protection, and he had to be able to trust them to do, because he didn't, he don't want to get hit.
Right.
And if they missed an assignment, it was like, give me the next one, or like if he's coming in to the game, I'll come out. That it was that intensity and the expectation.
If he's coming into the game, Coach Callahan, you don't put him in the game, I'll be out.
Yeah. If I see him coming on the field, you'll see me walking off. So that part was just, it's just a demand of the standard of what you expect every day. And it was awesome. And everybody rose to meet it. We had young players and Eric Decker and Demaryius Thomas and CJ Anderson. I mean, we had some guys that were unproven at the time that he helped make what they became, and it was a really cool process to be a part of. Man, he's unlike anybody I've ever been around.
What's it like with the coaches during practice when he's sending a guy away and the coach is like, no, you're in, and there's like this battle of egos between the sheriff and a coach? Does it get uncomfortable at all? Is there like in the meeting room like, this fucking guy?
Who's calling the shots.
Can we be honest about it?
We can absolutely.
It's if he doesn't want him in, he's not going to be in. Whether
coaches aren't saying a word, like
you're probably right. 18.
I mean, that's just what it was, and that's why. And it wasn't like that all the time, but like there was a standard, and if you didn't meet it, the expectation was that you wouldn't be there playing with them. But that's also what drove guys to be even better than they thought they could be, was because they wanted to be a part of it, and they wanted to be in that mode. They wanted to be counted on, and it's amazing what happens when you got a guy making sure that you better do it right or you can't be counted on. I mean, it drives you to be great, truthfully.
So you had Peyton Manning, and then you go to Cincinnati, and you get blessed with Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
What is Joe
Even
have?
staff in Detroit.
Well, I was gonna say the
true.
two years in Detroit were
Slingers,
phenomenal.
bro.
It was
Slingers.
God, Matthews, talk about an underrated man. Like, I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in football and has been for a long time. And I think he finally gets his due, but there was a while there where he didn't. And he might be one of the toughest players I've ever been around, and one of the most crazy talented quarterbacks that I've seen play. I mean, he's unbelievable.
That clip of them in like a 2-minute drive to win the game, and he like gets his shoulder out or something like that, and he's on the sideline like, I can.
That was
play,
early in his career, yeah.
Yes, that was like just one of the cooler things you see a quarterback do. Because he's like hurt, and he's like, I'll do it, and he throws a touchdown. The game's over. They win. And he's like shoulders.
I think he broke his collarbone.
No shit.
Yeah, I think that's what it was, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's you want to talk about. I mean, you guys know the things that guys play through that people don't know about. It would be shocking, I think, if people knew what guys dealt with during a football season and the things that he played through and the toughness that he had. It might be the toughest guy I've ever seen. I mean, truthfully, he's unbelievable. Oh yeah, he is hard nosed, tough as all get out, and he's an awesome guy to be around. I don't know how much time you guys have spent with him, but
I don't think I've met him.
He's phenomenal.
I don't have either.
No.
You just hear stories just like that all the time.
Why do you think he was so underrated for so long? Just because
They
didn't win.
franchise
They didn't
were?
win.
Playoffs.
Yeah, they didn't win enough. You know, and that's again, the wins tend to become a quarterback stat, which they probably shouldn't be. But he was on teams that were probably on the brink and could never quite get over that hump. And then obviously he goes to LA and he's been lighting on fire since every time. I mean, he's been unbelievable there. Wins the Super Bowl. He's finally, I think, getting his due as a player. But he was that player before he got to LA. He just didn't probably get the recognition for it.
And then you get Joe B.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you've been around some cats.
I've been very lucky.
Peyton Manning.
I've been very lucky.
Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow. What are the similarities that all three of those guys have? And then you talked about a little bit on the way that Staff was, Peyton was, and then also some differences with Joe B.
Yeah, I think it was very different because Peyton was obviously going in. I think when he came to Denver, that was like year 15. When I was with Matthew, I think Matthew was going into like 7, 8, 9, 10, somewhere. He had been playing for a couple of years, and then having Joe was different because Joe was a rookie. Obviously a highly regarded, and his reputation preceded him when he got drafted, but he was still a rookie, and so that was a really fun process to try to help that development from being a rookie. And as you guys know, rookies are rookies. No matter how good they are, it still takes some time.
Yeah.
But to see him become everything that we thought he could become and he knew he could become was pretty awesome. And that's because he shares a lot of the same traits that Peyton and Matthew have in terms of, there's just an edge there's just something about those guys, and you know it when you see it, where they just don't accept anything other than the best, and there is no such thing as failure. Like they won't fail. They can't fail. And there's a willpower in that. I think that's kind of the baseline of who they are. And then there's a drive to be the best there is.
Yeah.
And and then he has the ability to deliver on it, which is pretty cool. A very different personality than Peyton and Matthew.
Right.
They're all very unique, but they share that commonality where they're at their core, they are assassins.